YouTube. I'm here with a Ruger 1022 magazine. It's having trouble feeding, and I'm just going to show you how to disassemble this guy and reassemble it. You can clean it out. If you get any grit in here, a lot of times it'll hang up. The follower will hang up, and so you got to clean the inside of the magazine body. But I just want to show you how to disassemble it and reassemble it. So I'm going to start with telling you this is a 9/64 Allen, okay, on the back. You take it out. It's the only screw on the whole magazine body. Okay, you thread that out lefty-loosey. Just a few turns and it'll fall right out. Okay, there it is. And this front plate, okay, there's a plate. You'll see a seam right here. This front plate comes off, okay? And that front plate comes off and the magazine follower is under tension, and so you kind of let that, you'll see it spin. There it goes. It'll spin, and then the follower comes out, and then the feed lips just kind of fall out, okay? Feed lips are idiot proof. They've got a big dot on one side and a little dot on the other, okay? And if you look here in the magazine body, you'll see the big dot, okay? So when you go to put this back in, it'll only go one way, okay? And that is with this thing angled way over here like this, okay? So you see it's flush over here, and then a whole lot of exposed steel over here. Okay, so push it in. So I'm going to put that back because we actually don't need it out. I'm just going to show you how to take it out. So in here, this plate, a lot of people don't realize it, but this little piece in the middle, if you just give it a little push, comes out. Okay, it's a hexagon shaped part, almost like a nut. And it's got a tiny, 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 tiny little hole. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but a tiny little hole right there. And that tiny little hole engages this peg on this spring. Tiny little peg on this spring. And so what you'll do is when you go to put it back together after you've cleaned your magazine, okay, mine's clean and happy and everything's wonderful, okay? And the first thing you'll do is you'll go ahead and put this plate back on, okay? Line up the spring with the hole. There we go. And line up the peg on the feed lips. Okay, so you get it all together like this. There's no spring tension. And the first thing you do is turn it clockwise. Let me get it in here. Turn it clockwise until you get your feed lips to the top where they would normally be with an empty magazine. So that's your first thing, is put it there. Okay, you're going to line that tiny little hole up with that spring peg. That's the hardest part if you have poor eyesight like me. But you'll line that little hole up with the spring peg, okay? And once you line up that hole with the spring peg, you're going to turn this guy clockwise. You turn the hex nut clockwise. Usually about a full turn is plenty, maybe a little more, okay? And you're going to press it into place while it's under spring tension. And you just take a probe or something and press on those feed lips, and they're definitely under some spring tension, okay? And then you put your Allen screw back, and that's it. That's how you take apart a Ruger 1022 magazine and put it back together. You got to turn that little hex nut and put the spring tension on it, otherwise it won't feed rounds, okay? Typically, when someone has a Ruger 1022 magazine that's quit feeding rounds, it's either it's gotten some grit and the follower's getting stuck. Clean out your magazine, okay? That blowback action on the 1022, it tends to eventually get enough dirt in here that this thing will jam up. Or sometimes that spring peg will jump out of that little hole. Okay, you jar your gun hard enough, that little spring peg will jump out, and you've got to re-tension the spring. So don't throw these away if they quit working. The only reason you'd ever throw this away is if that spring broke. And you may even be able to order a spring from Ruger. But anyway, that's how we re-tension this magazine. Please put it in the please put any comments you have in the questions, and I'll be glad to answer them.